All right. So we are in the last chapter of the book, and this chapter is about IP security. Commonly known as IPsec. So we will talk about IPsec. There are three parts of IPsec. First is authentication header. Second is ESP, the encapsulating security payload. And third is Internet Key Exchange, IKE. So we'll talk about those three things. So we saw TCP security or transport level security, TLS. And with TLS, any application can use it. But IP security is one level below. So it's not just any application can use it. Any kind of communication can use it. And so, for example, TLS may not be used for UDP or something like that because it is just one message you are sending or one request and one response you are sending. With IPsec, everything can be secured. So IPsec is generally used for things like intercompany VPNs. So if you have two sites, like we have medical school and North Campus, between those two we want to encrypt all the messages, so we will use IPsec. Then IPsec doesn't really look at what transport you are using. It is good for all transports because it is at the IP level. So we saw the application level security with email, we saw the transport level security with TLS, and now we are seeing IP level security. And all the same thing that we were provided at the other layers we get here. For example, access control. So we want to make sure that the users are authorized to do what they are doing. Data integrity, making sure that the data has not been changed. Data origin authentication, we want to ensure that the data came from a particular place where it says it came from. In this case, actually IP address. Rejection of replayed packet. So basically, we don't want somebody to be able to replay the old packets. Of course, encryption and traffic flow confidentiality. What is traffic flow confidentiality? Well, if you find out that somebody talked to somebody yesterday, then that could be a very secret thing that you should not know about, or that could cause some problem. So if, for example, we find out that President Obama made a call to some particular country, that will create news, and people will figure out why did he call. So there's something going on here, and so such things basically can be found out by traffic flow, by finding out whether any packets are going there, or by finding out how many packets are going there, or finding out that there were 3 packet exchange. So things like that, we want to keep it confidential, and that is called traffic flow confidentiality. Not just the content, but the fact that something was exchanged between 2 addresses should be confidential. So the benefit is that it is layer 3, and therefore it applies to all transports, and it can be implemented in firewalls, routers, and security to all traffic crossing the parameters. Anything that goes out is encrypted. It is transparent to applications and can be transparent to end users. So that's another thing, is that when your company has a IPsec routers, you never realize that your message was encrypted, but it can be done totally transparent to you. Can provide security for individual users, so it can provide security for all the users. Applications. So IPsec is generally used, as we said, in VPN. VPN is when you call from home. That is like you are branch of the office in your home, and the office itself, VPN. Branch offices, if there is a real office, branch office, generally when there are more than one person, we call it a branch office. And remote users like us, and extranets. So what is extranet? Well, most of you have heard of intranet. Intranet is the network inside the company. Extranet is the network outside the company with your partners. So WashU may be working with many suppliers and they might have a network with those suppliers. We call that extranet because they have some rights to get into WashU to use either our facility, to maintain our facility, or to provide us some services. So extranet has to be secured as well. And talking about the extranet, very recently we found out that both Home Depot and Target were hacked because their partners were hacked. So they did not have any security which was loose, but the people who were maintaining their sites or something like that, they had some loose ends, and so somebody from there could hack the partner, and from the partner they could hack these companies, and now they are into several $1 million of losses because of this insecurity. So everybody understands now extranet, right? And everybody understands why we want IPsec. Okay, next. So IPsec basically works as follows, that everybody sends out a packet with the IP header on it. So IP header and IP payload. Then you have two choices. I mean, basically what you do is you take the IP packet, full IP packet with the header. You put the IPsec header here. So you see, in this case, the IP header is here, IP payload is here, but in between we have put the IPsec header. And then we send it out. And it goes over the public internet. Nobody can read it because this part is encrypted. The secure part is payload is encrypted. And at the end, we can get back the same thing. So between these two routers, the router at the beginning and the router at the end, things are encrypted. Similarly, with the remote users, they start encrypted and they go to the end. Okay. So this is how IPsec works. This is actually just one mode. There are two modes. Second mode will come up in a minute. But before we do this, we need a way to exchange the keys. So there is Internet Key Exchange, IKE. And right now we are, I think, in IKE version 3. But anyway, this picture shows IKE version 2. So we use that to exchange the keys. Are the two routers. B means here the two routers that are connected by IPsec will exchange the keys, and then there will be a security association, SA, will be formed. So now they have a security association, and then they will encrypt their messages using IPsec version 3. And so there will be two pairs of SA, security association. Now it turns out, for whatever reason, these associations are one way. Okay, so you have to have two security associations for two-way encryption. This just allows the possibility in case you don't want to have encryption the other way or for whatever reason. So basically, these are all one way, and the data is protected in whatever direction that flows. And SAD is the security association database. So basically, when you form a security association like this, for however long it is formed, you have to remember the keys and the passwords, etc., etc. So those are kept in this database. So this is security association database. You can, for example, ask this database, what is the security key for association number 5? So that is basically kept here. Now, this is SPD, security policy database. This is much more, this is basically much more permanent in the sense that the company sets the policy as to what to secure and how to secure, and those policies are kept here. Those policies are used by both IKE as well as IPsec. So the recipient also have their own policies, and they will use them to design their own IKE and IPsec. But this is something which is temporary. SAD is basically, as the associations are formed, they are put into the database. So we have IKE, or the key exchange, IPsec for encryption and other things, and security association database and security policy database. Policy database is permanent, and association database is temporal. All right. security association database. Each host has a database of security associations. Okay, and security association is a one-way relationship between the sender and the receiver. If you need two-way, then you need two security associations. So two assays are required. And the reason you may use different security means that you may want to use different encryption technique or different, of course, keys, and different size keys and so on and so forth. So you have two ways, each with its own association. And a security association is defined by three parameters. First, an index, which is just a number in the table. So you index it into the table. Security parameters index. And the destination address, where it goes to, where it ends up. And the identifier, protocol identifier. Now this is important because SPI is security parameter index and this is security protocol identifier, which is not SPI. There are two protocols in IPsec we will talk about. We have not discussed them yet, so the whole rest of the chapter is about those two, AH and ESP. So just hold on to that, what they are. We probably will not be talking about them today. But AH is authentication hazard and ESP is the encapsulation security protocol, ESP. So we could use one of those two. And for each security association, we keep the SPI, which is the security parameter index, which is simply the index in the table. Sequence number counter. So each packet which is sent has a sequence number. So the counter is kept. If the counter overflows, that flag is kept. And then there is an anti-replay window. Basically, you will not accept any packets older than certain sequence number. So if you are at sequence number 2000 right now, you could say that, well, I will not accept anything older than 1900. And so that would be your replay window. AH information and ESP information. So there is some information required for each of those two options, AH and ESP. And lifetime of the SA, how old is SA. And then mode, which is transport or tunnel or wildcard. And again, these transport and tunnel will be explained in the next few slides. And then path MTU. MTU is the maximum transmission unit. Each router has the maximum size that it can take. That is the router's MTU. Path MTU is the minimum of all the routers on the path. So if you're going from A to B, you ask every router along the path, what is your MTU? And the minimum of that would be the path MTU. So you will never send, or you will not try to send, or you will not likely send packets bigger than path MTU, because if you send them, they will be fragmented, and that's not a good idea. I mean, generally it's okay, it's not a big deal, but it's not a good idea, so you better send it which is smaller than path MTU. Alright, so this is all about security association database, the SAD. It's just a table in which you keep all the information about each association. Policy database is SPD. So it says what traffic will go to what SA. Okay, for example, it could say that any UDP traffic with port 500 going from 101 should do this, and so so this is all. These are all the policies which are listed in this table. This should be bypassed. This should be protected. This should be discarded. So these are all filtering and security policies, and these are kept in this database. So matches the subset of the IP traffic to relevant security association. Uses selector to filter outgoing traffic to the map. And it is based upon the local and the remote IP addresses, which could be wildcarded. As shown here, remote IP is wildcarded. Regardless of where it is going, this will be bypassed. And sometimes it is wildcarded, only first 24 bit is specified, the last byte doesn't matter. Here all 4 bytes matter, and so on and so forth. So you could specify the source and the destination accordingly. And the next layer protocol, which is UDP, ICMP, TCP. By the way, these are all the protocols that run on IP. It's not just UDP and TCP. Even ICMP runs on IP. And you know what is ICMP? Anybody knows what is ICMP? Internet Control Message Protocol. So this is basically IP control, and IP control runs on IP. Alright, star means any protocol. So anyway, so this is security policy, as I said, is somewhat permanent, and it just says what to do with the packets, and so packets can be classified by different fields, which includes the source address, destination address, port numbers, source and destination port numbers, and the protocol type. For those, the actions are given. So basically, we take a packet, we search the security policy database, no match found, we discard the packet. If the match is found, we determine the policy. Some policy says send it in clear, we send it in clear. Some policy says encrypt it or protect it, and then we go into the SAD and see if there is a match. If there is a match, then we just send it on that SA. If it is not, then we see if we can create a new SA. So this path here on the right is no match found, is internet key exchange. So we create a new SA because we need to protect it. So we just create that SA and then come back. On the receiving side, the packet comes in. We see what is the packet type. It's clear. Then we send it to IP. It is IPsec. Then we send it to this path on the right side. Then we see if there is an association. If there is no association, the recipient simply throws away the packet. And if there is an association already existing, then it processes it and then delivers it. Okay. So on the sending side, if there is no match, you start a new SA. On the receiving side, if there is no match, you discard the packet.